Hey, this is the Dear Next Gen podcast brought to you by Montage. We're all about bridging generational gaps through events, stories, and conversations about real stuff. Sit back, enjoy this episode, and don't forget, your younger self would be proud of you. Now, we present you your host, Cece.
Hello and welcome back to the Dear Next Gen podcast. I'm excited to have a guest with you that we have been digital friends for a long time and now we get to chat in real life. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to have this conversation. And yeah, we were saying earlier, I feel like we've been chatting here, there, and everywhere for a while now. So it's nice to chat as much as in real life as possible as this is.
Yeah, sit down, have a real conversation. I'm going to start by asking you the question we ask everybody. What advice would you give your high school or your younger self?
Yeah, I was definitely thinking about this quite a bit because high school has definitely been quite some time ago, I feel like. But I would probably say that there's always a light at the end of the tunnel and that everything you are working towards will make sense one day. I feel like in high school, at least like here in Canada or where I live in Ontario, like you have to, I feel like it's so young when we have to decide exactly like what career we want to get into because we're applying to university or college. And honestly, in high school, I didn't really know exactly what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. So I feel like it's okay to just kind of go with what you feel like is your strong suit and kind of just like let everything else flow there. There's also so much time for you to start over. You'll learn so much and you'll eventually fall into what you are meant to do. And even now, like I'm 27 and I feel like there's probably still space for me to like continue growing and start over and make change. So I would just tell my younger self to there's a light at the end of this tunnel and everything will make sense eventually.
Yeah, that is so needed to hear for people of all walks of life because, like you said, I think we're the exact same age. I'm also 27. And just before we even recorded, we were talking about, new projects in the works that you're dreaming of or I'm dreaming of. And that's the same thing as like, we don't need to know fully what we're doing. And then things change and things adjust, and you've publicly shared just kind of the different stage that you've been in, jumping from one kind of career to a more specific like freelance like lifestyle. What has that looked like for you? Because that's something that when you were 17 you probably weren't writing down like, this is my business name, this is what I'm going to do, and this is the path I'm going to take to get there. Yeah, tell us a bit more about where you were and where you are now.
Yeah, no, I definitely didn't really think I would be here, to be honest. However, I do like looking back and thinking about my younger self, I've definitely always kind of had like a leadership bone in me. And I was always the type of person who would try to take full control of like the school projects, like when you're working with a team and things like that. I was like, guys, don't worry, I got this. So I guess deep down, like my inner child has always enjoyed like working for herself and like doing big projects and feeling like accomplished at the end of it, like knowing that I did it all or I did like most of it. So I guess like transitioning into having my own business and working for myself, I guess looking back shouldn't be too surprising, but definitely the first few years in my career, I worked for other people and I learned a lot in terms of what I like in a workspace and what I don't like, and then also what I'm good at and what I enjoy the most out of what I'm doing. So yeah, I was working in social media management for quite some time, and then I stumbled into influencer marketing at my last role, and it was for an apparel and footwear company. And then from there, I just decided to take a risk and transition again, just sticking in the same industry, but transitioning in the sense of, okay, I'm going to actually take a leap and work for myself and see if that works out for me. And so far things have
So
been
good.
Yes.
That's interesting that you say that you learned what you were good at and also what you enjoyed, because so much of maybe it's like the digital marketing space, and I'm assuming it's the same in, other fields. You kind of need to be in it to know, okay, what do I like? Because it might sound really great to think, okay, I love making social posts. Maybe I'll work in social media management or, do engagement for brands. Or maybe I do like behind the scenes, like you said, you do outreach, you find
Mhm.
creators, you talk to them, you set up timelines, contracts. That is so different than somebody who is writing the captions. And that is so different than somebody who wants to be in front of the camera every day making content as a content creator. So you definitely probably had to find out, okay, wait, I actually don't mind this, and I'm actually very good at this, like the community building side.
Mhm. Exactly, yeah. I didn't love every single role that I was in, of course, and I decided that at the end of it, like, once I went through the trial and error process of everything, but I think you really have to try things out and put your best foot forward in it in order for you to actually realize what it is that you enjoy doing, and I'm a strong believer that, like, if you don't enjoy your job and you don't enjoy what you're doing, it's work is gonna feel 100 times harder, and
Hmm.
work is majority of our day. So, I think it's really important to, like, find something out of it that you love, and if you don't wanna talk about work after work, I feel like that's also a sign that
Mm,
it's not exciting and it's not fulfilling you.
yeah. That is such an interesting topic to me because I have talked to friends who are terrified to look for another job, career, do the freelance leap. And I think I just have a complete different story. Like I jumped around job to job, like since high school and after, because I don't know, the ADHD in me was like, I want to try this. I want to try this. I want to do this. But because I realized I'm so tired of this, I need to do something else, or I need to do something on top of something else. But did you, like, for you, was it really hard to go, okay, I have the stability of a job. Now I'm going to just do a leap and I'm in charge of if I make income or not every month?
I personally was freelancing on top of my roles that I had previously, just because I guess
Mhm.
similar to you, I kind of always wanted to have something else in the background that like excited me and was a little
Yeah.
bit more refreshing and I was able to be creative with. So in terms of finding clients and being able to balance different things all at once, I guess I was practicing that for a few years without even realizing that it would flourish into
Mm.
the job that I'm in right now. But of course, like I did think about, okay, am I going to make money? When am I going to make money? And how am I going to make money after taking
Yeah.
this leap? Because I didn't make a business plan. I didn't really think it through. It was just a breakthrough moment at my previous role where I just knew in that exact moment that it wasn't meant for me anymore. And I was only doing myself and the company a disservice by staying and
Mm.
being miserable because I wasn't able to put my best foot forward anymore. So I kind of just took that leap and I figured it's now or never. Like there's no better time than now. So I took
Mhm.
the leap. I took some time to relax slash do research while I was relaxing.
Yeah.
And it really ended up just working out and falling into place the way it was meant to be.
Mhm. You talk about, like, yeah, taking a break, but then also doing research. I That's a really good example of what you're saying. If you are really passionate about something and you're not tired of it already, you will want to do that research, gather information, and be fueled to create your own brand or whatever the project is. So definitely can see how that worked out for you. And it's been really fun to watch just the clients that you have and the communities that you're building on behalf of brands. Can you speak a little bit on that side of it? So the the background that I have is kind of similar, but not in the sense of like the scale that you've done it in. I've done a lot of contracts and things, but I don't think that's the norm to talk about just the affiliate side, the PR side, the building a community on behalf of a brand and like doing a launch. You've worked with really cool brands, and I get to also
Thanks.
work with you through the brands that I love. But what is it like being on that side? Or like, what do you think people assume it is, but it's really not? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, just in general, going back to where I said you really have to love what you do. Building the communities is my favorite part of what I do,
Mm-hmm.
and it gives me the opportunity to meet so many different people, and including yourself. Here we are, because we
Yeah.
met through one of my clients. So it's really fun getting to meet different kinds of people. All my clients are kind of in different niches too, which makes it
Mm-hmm.
more exciting because I'm getting to learn so much about different types of audiences, different types of peoples, just people I would have never imagined myself having conversations with
Yeah.
because they're either across the world or their day to day doesn't look anything like mine. So
Mm-hmm.
that side of like everything that I do, building community is my favorite part. But I guess on my end, what I think some people don't know is that there is a lot of, I guess, technical or like logistics when it comes to finding the right people for communities. I think it's really important as the person building the communities for these brands that you really understand what their message is, what their goals are, and who their actual audience and customer is, because you are now going to be selecting people to tell the story of the brand through
Mm-hmm.
social media. So you need to make sure that those people align with the brand perfectly. So it's not just an easy like scroll through Instagram or scroll through TikTok and find
Yeah.
anybody who's posting about anything. You really have to dive into all of their content, kind of take a look at like their old highlights and what their day
Mm.
to day looks like and who they seem to be as a person. Because first and foremost, like I would never put someone in my client's community who I feel like is offensive or,
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have a kind bone in them. And you can just tell through their content. So you want to make sure that you're finding the right people.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's like a really big part of it where people might think it's just easy to find anybody, but really it's really diving
So
in
much
and
work. Yeah.
trying to read people before
You
actually
even
having a
reach out,
conversation with them.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's cool. You're also on behalf of a brand, like you're saying, these clients, you've invested so much in, okay, the time of who are they looking for, what do they want? And if you're gonna even do like a risk, I think it's fun to see brands who partner with somebody that was like, I was not expecting that. But you could tell that it was strategic, that somebody like
Mhm.
you has been there and was like, you know what, like this this athlete doesn't make sense if you think about it quickly, but they really like, this kind of drink, or they really like this kind of, sock, and our company has a sock that they could try and things like that. So I think it's hard to know what goes into it, but it's a great thing that there's people like you who specialize in it.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a lot of fun. Sometimes it feels weird because I'm stalking so many people, especially like when
Yeah.
I'm in my city, if I'm working on a campaign in Toronto and then a few days later I'm walking down the street and I'm like, "Oh,
I know
I
you.
know your birthday, your dog's name, and everything because I just had to stalk your entire profile for a
Yeah.
project, but you have no idea who I am."
You have no idea. You're
So
the face.
it is funny sometimes because yeah, it comes down to that where I will end up seeing all these people in person or just casually walking down the street and I can't smile or wave or anything because they have no idea that I'm working
Like,
on a
no, no.
campaign and I'm about to cast them in something.
Mm-hmm. You're like, you'll remember my name one day. One day I'll
Yeah.
see you on the other
Yeah.
side. Do you have any tips for somebody who is on the other side and, they see creators and brands working together, they want to get into that space, or maybe they already are? What is something that you kind of look out for? You mentioned, seeming kind, showing your personality online. What are some things that you have seen that made you go like a quick yes, like I'm going to reach out?
Yeah, I think that people who make it crystal clear on who they are and what they value
Mm.
authentically it are the people that I quickly add to a list when I'm putting together a campaign. So I would say just share the things that you actually enjoy, showcase
Mhm.
your real life, and the right brands will come to you, or you'll be able to align yourself with the right brands that you love and use every single day. So I do think authenticity is a big thing. And then just in general, if we're getting into like logistic things, just make sure that you're engaging with your community and you're building a real strong community around you because
Mm.
engagement is a super powerful metric that brands like to look at, because of course they want to make sure if they are working with you that your audience is actually going to care about what you're sharing,
Yes.
and they will potentially purchase it. They will end up following the brand, whatever the case is. Engagement is a super important thing to work towards as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's definitely a wave in and people who are interested in it, whether it's like monetary or they just, who doesn't love free stuff that you actually use, right? So it's
Mm-hmm.
exciting to see a world where there's lots of opportunities for that, but I do know it could probably be intimidating to start creating content with the intention of that. I heard somebody give good advice of like start with your end goal. Like, do you want to be, do you want to do a collab with the brand, like a whole line with a brand? Then start doing things that make sense for that. Or do you want to start a podcast? Start doing things that make sense. So then they come to you.
Yeah, exactly. And if you're a smaller creator too and you're starting out, if you are tagging the brands often and you're speaking highly of them and you're creating really cool content that will wow them,
Mm-hmm.
that's also a way to really showcase to the brands that you actually use yourself. Sorry, not use yours. You use the product in your day to day life. And it becomes an easy person to reach out to eventually when they are putting
Yeah.
something together, because you know that you know the product well or the items well, and you are an authentic type of partner that they can work with. It would make sense for
Mm-hmm.
your audience to see that you are now officially working with a certain brand because they already know that you love the item. So that will
Yeah.
also improve like the chance of your followers purchasing the items, which is
Mm-hmm.
helpful for brands. And then of course, if you are on a commission basis, it's helpful for you as well. So I would definitely
Mm-hmm.
tag the brands that you love and actually
Yeah.
use.
That's really good advice because even if they're not looking right away, somebody like you or somebody behind the brand on the social side is watching the content. And there's been times, like personally, I have tagged a brand I love for like a year, never heard anything, like they just, heart the comment or gets lost in the request, and then literally 2 years later, out of nowhere, you get a random paid opportunity, or just because they randomly had the budget, or they just were trying to think of somebody on the spot, and you just showed up enough times that it works.
Yeah, and I would say too, as a creator, don't just be discouraged if you are
Hmm.
rejected. Sometimes it's just not the right time and right fit for what the brand is personally working towards. So, for example, some of my brands are very focused on location because let's say we're growing in stores in a specific location. So, we want to build a community in that area. So just
Hmm.
because I'm declining someone who maybe doesn't live in that area or their audience doesn't predominantly live in that area right now doesn't mean that they're not a good fit. They just don't fit the budget and main goals that I have
The
to work
main
towards
goal.
right now.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't get too upset when it comes to that. If you love a product and you love a brand, continue to use it in your real life, continue to share it organically where you want. But don't be discouraged and think that now the brand is tainted because they didn't want to work with you that one time.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff that happens in the back end that I guess a lot of people naturally wouldn't know about. So I would keep that in mind too.
Yeah. Thanks for being honest on
Yeah.
on what goes on in your
Yeah.
space. You've worked with cool brands, and I feel like I'll probably just like mention them in the description or in our social media
Sure.
episodes. One of your clients, of course, that we love is Bloom, but are there any brands that you're like, this is my dream client one day?
Oh my goodness.
It's a hard question. Or like a certain industry that you're like, oh, I would love to be part of this brand's campaign.
Yeah. I mean, right now, I'm really lucky that I get to work with different types of brands. Right now, I'm working with like health foods, I'm working with apparel, I'm working with
Mm-hmm.
lifestyle, and I'm working with tech. So it's kind of really exciting to see a
So
mixture of
fun.
all of those. But um, I mean, if I were to look into my day to day and like brands that I actually use, which is how I decide what kinds of brands I'm going to pitch myself towards, because if I don't love the brand or know anything about them, for the most part, I have a feeling that I'm not going to enjoy working for
Yeah.
them and I won't feel as confident speaking on their behalf.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, like Aritzia is definitely a brand that would be full circle for me just because I used to work like in store when I was in high
Yeah.
school and university. So it'd be really cool to get to work with Aritzia to support anything to do with marketing. That
Mhm.
would be a dream. I really want to get into doing more events with brands.
Yeah.
So, doing more IRL experiences and activations. So, whether that's with like current clients or other brands that just are looking for a one off project
Mhm.
for events, that would be a lot of fun too. But in terms of other brands, I'm having like a brain fog, but I'm sure
No,
after
that's
this
okay.
I'm sure after this they're all gonna come to me
Let
and
me know
I
what
will
they are.
probably yeah, I'll probably write them down and manifest it.
Yeah, do it. I feel like there's something powerful than just saying it to people, and
Mhm.
you never know what connections come out of just being honest about
Mhm.
your ideas. I think in real life activation planners are the future, and I obviously at Montage we love doing in-person things, and sometimes I treat them like that. I'm like, if I were like pretend I was, a brand with sales, what would I do that was extra fun? And then I do see the brands who are thriving be intentional about doing similar things, like everybody's name is on something, or it's more than just let's fly all these influencers to this place. Let's do a local thing that is fun, a yoga class, things that make sense. So you are definitely going to be very desirable in that space.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. The last thing I just kind of want to talk about was you mentioned to me before we were recording that you were doing vocals, you went to musical high school, and now we know you worked in retail. What did you do after high school? Is my question up until like where you are now? Because you and me both, we've been out of high school, what, 10 years? So, what did you
Yeah,
do leading up to getting your first kind of jobs in social media?
I and this is why it was a little scary for me to take a leap and not have work right away because I can't remember the last time I did not have a job because the second I turned 16,
Yep.
I had a job and there were times that I had like 2 or 3 jobs at a time. Like I was a lifeguard for a million years. And then while I was a lifeguard, at some point I was also working at Aritzia while also balancing an internship. I don't know
Wow.
how I did it all, to be entirely honest, because I was like a student as well. So, I mean,
We made
sometimes
it
I
work
give
back then.
myself,
I don't know. Yeah.
yeah, I give myself like an applause sometimes because of that. But I mean, after high school, I was in university. I was, yeah, balancing a few of those jobs at a time. And then I was also doing internships that suited the I guess the job that I thought I wanted to get into. I went to journalism school in university. So I did a balance of two different kinds of internships to really figure out what it was that I wanted. So one of my internships was at a PR agency where they
Mhm.
did back then there honestly wasn't a lot of influencer marketing, so they didn't do much of that at the time. A lot of it was like magazines and like working with editors and things like that. And then I also interned at a magazine at one point as well to figure out, do I like marketing and PR a little bit
Mm.
more than journalism? And the answer was yes. So after that, I started as a social media manager at a company and then slowly ended up into influencer marketing at my last job. And then that's kind of where
Yeah.
after that, this is where we landed.
That's really it's interesting I think to ask people that kind of question because it can be intimidating, and you can be hard on yourself if you see somebody else be really successful and have, gets to work freelance, gets to work with really cool brands, and is you see, you just see the final result, but we weren't there the whole time when you were younger, working multiple jobs, like doing those internships. So I like asking people that question just so you can get a glimpse of, if I wanted to get into a direction that somebody else has been in, what helped them get there, or just a reality check that everything takes time and work. And like you said with your advice, I feel like your advice just worked so well with your life story and where you are today. So it's proof that it's
Thanks.
real good advice.
Yeah, I agree with you. Nothing happens overnight. And if you are one of the lucky ones that you just land something, I hope that that is the job where you like learn the most out of,
Mm-hmm.
because I honestly wouldn't be able to, you know, time manage. I wouldn't be able to speak for different brands and like adapt to their voice without having all these other jobs behind me and
Mm-hmm.
other management styles that people, managed me under, and types of
Yeah.
bosses. You really have to kind of learn all of that in order to actually work for yourself, in my opinion. I'm sure some people are born leaders. Um, and I think there's like some of that in me, but I definitely had to learn certain things in order for me to have the full
Mm-hmm.
confidence to do what I'm doing right now.
Yeah. Definitely you can have some natural stuff in it, which I think you had, but just even having different bosses definitely makes you a different person because you're able to work with a team. Like you're alone, but you work with different team members. So it's
Mhm.
crazy how it all is important to experience before. Thank you so much for just sharing your story, your real talk and advice. Where can people find you online if they're looking for you?
Yeah, no, thank you so much. My name is pretty much where you can find me everywhere on LinkedIn, Instagram. It's Adriana Parente. And if you wanted to check out the agency on Instagram, it's kitmedia.ca.
You can follow along. Kit's really cool. Just
Thanks.
collaborations and projects you've been working on. We're really, really proud of you. And
Thanks.
you're a role model to our community. So, yeah,
Aw,
thanks for the behind the scenes stuff you've even done for me personally or for Montage just through your work. You definitely are a community builder. And yeah, if you guys
thank
have any
you.
questions, want to follow Adriana, I'll put everything linked in the show notes so we can connect with her there.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. And I'm more than happy to chat with anyone if they're like confused about their career transition, or if they're
Mm-hmm.
just, going from high school to university and feels really stuck. I'm more than happy to have a conversation, because
It's
I
true,
feel like
yeah.
I didn't have that many people to, chat with during those times. So I would love to give back in that way.
Yeah. Oh, yes, it's true. Her emails, DMs are always open, guys.
Always. Yeah,
Well,
thank you so much.
you're welcome. Have a great day.
You too.